Well. More tariff news with, well, I suppose something called the de minimis exception. So, from what I understand, from the sort of very quick tertiary knowledge that I have acquired about the de minimis exception, basically the de minimis exception is the reason as to why like companies like Temu and I never remember all of the other like sort of like drop shipping sort of like cheap China manufactured, well, cheap goods and slop that people love to constantly order. There's like another one that's very commonly cited, but Temu is the main one that people think of automatically. But generally speaking, there was an exception that they would use with tariffs, which allowed them to very easily, I suppose, flood the U.S. market with a lot of very cheap goods. And basically, there was an exception to tariff rates if a order did not exceed a certain amount of money. Because let's be honest here. Let's be honest here. If you were charged, let's say, I don't know how like shipping prices from like fucking China to the U.S. I guess it depends. Let's say you paid for an item that's about $20 and you were slapped with a surcharge that is more than what you paid for, right? Let's say it's like $40. You would not be very happy about that. You'd be like, why the fuck am I paying like triple the price for this $20 thing that I ordered from fucking Temu? Like, what the fuck is this? The de minimis exception was the thing that was, well, in place to sort of take care of that. So instead of that getting like, I don't know, a ridiculous fucking import tax to shit, so you wouldn't have to pay basically like double the amount for what you ordered. The de minimis exception was just like, fuck it, whatever. Like, who the fuck cares about that stuff? So crazy. It's happening to Face Connect, I believe, is a VTuber organization, right? The only reason why I'm, I guess, focusing on this in particular is because this is where I heard from it. This is the first thing that I saw about it, unironically. So what? All shipments to the U.S. must now clear customs. The shipments originating from Canada will face a flat 35% tariff. Oh, is he actually putting in the fucking tariffs that he keeps saying that he's delaying, and delaying on constantly? Is this it? Okay, cool, fantastic. As a result of this change, and to avoid imposing unreasonable duty charges on both our customers and the store, we will be pausing all orders and shipments to the U.S. Man, those right-wing VTuber fans who more than likely all voted for Trump are not going to be particularly happy about this, huh? Very cool. I remember I saw a post of someone saying that, this wouldn't have happened if Canada's dog shit prime minister just took care of the fentanyl on the border. It's just like, dog, like 0.2% of fentanyl in the US came through from fucking Canada. It is irrelevant. Most of the fentanyl that comes in to the US is from the fucking southern border. Complete utter fucking nonsense. It's so fucking stupid. Pre-order periods for current and upcoming drops will be extended to compensate for the lost time. During this pause, we are actively working with multiple logistics partners to identify a sustainable path forward and aim to regular service as soon as possible. We sincerely apologize for the inconvenience and delays, yada yada. Very cool. So, as expected, we all know why the de minimis exception got revoked by Trump, because for whatever reason, he thinks that he wants the United States of America to basically be an export economy similar to China and just have the Americans, manufacture a bunch of fucking cheap goods, which is, I don't know, really fucking stupid. Honestly, it is honestly probably the dumbest fucking shit on the planet. Like, there's a reason why a lot of manufacturing for simple materials, like, say, nuts and bolts, random fucking example, basically got, outsourced to mostly Southeast Asia and China. It's because of given how the American economy transitioned, right, into sort of a more tech sector, very heavy tech-focused economy. You don't really want to have your highly educated populace sitting on a factory room floor just making nuts and fucking bolts. You would rather, because of how strong the US economy is, you can just outsource that and just have another population be able to work on that. Now, I'm not saying that this is a good or a bad thing, right? There's no fucking particular prescription of that. Obviously, it is bad because of the fundamental exploitative nature and relationship that is on display here, obviously, because a lot of labor regulations within the countries that, as previously mentioned, in Southeast Asia are not going to be as good as that within the US. Again, grain of fucking salt. Ultimately, even whatever like labor protections that do exist in the US are threadbare at best. But in those places, they're going to be much worse. And also, not to mention a lot of like safety regulations as well. You know, OSHA regulations, different factory room floor regulations. You know, take your fucking pick. Like, there's 17 trillion different things you can say about this. Duh, obviously. So we all know why Trump is doing this in particular. He wants to just make cheap goods in the US instead, which also doesn't make a lot of sense because a lot of US workers are not going to want to do these particular this particular kind of work. Like I have to, again, I have to ask conservatives this. Do you really believe for even 3 fucking seconds that a dude with a cozy corporate office job is going to want to go work on a factory room floor? Yeah, I personally fucking doubt it. So the idea that like the US is supposed to be this new sort of like export manufacturing economy and this like transition that's being done in, I would honestly argue probably the like laziest, most stupid way possible is very, very fucking silly. But you know, let's see what we can learn a little bit more about the de minimis exception. How U.S. shoppers will be hit as tariff exemption ends. The U.S. has pulled the rug on a long-time-running global tariff exemption that has been widely used by buyers of low-cost goods. From Friday, imports valued at $800 or less will no longer be duty-free and will face tighter customs checks. Oh, so that's the fucking sort of, I suppose, threshold. Because that's what I was particularly interested in. $800 or less? Most fucking orders online are not going to be hitting $800. They're going to be pretty fucking cheap. So say like with the $20 example that I mentioned earlier, from what I understand, Trump wants to implement a particular policy that says, "Oh, if you're paying this amount on a order, there's going to be a flat $80 fucking tariff fee that's also going to be slapped on that." And the de minimis exception was the thing that was not allowing that particular policy to be fucking implemented. Well, with the de minimis exception gone, well, guess you're gonna have to pay an extra 80 fucking dollars. Because again, Trump doesn't understand how tariffs work. He doesn't understand that it is a tax on the buyer, on the fucking consumer, ultimately. And we can also talk about like how companies can easily, you know, front load those fucking $80 or whatever to a certain extent. Eventually, they're going to raise products on their products. You know, I'm not sure if it's a $10 thing. It's now $90 kind of a deal, Alex. I was trying to find the White House sort of policy on this. I wasn't able to fucking find it, but they have something on this where it talks about there's going to be a flat $80 fucking tariff fee on basically any particular good that doesn't reach a certain fucking threshold. It's going to be subject to a flat $80 fucking tax, basically, which is insane because the people who are going to have to pay for that are, well, it's going to be the consumers. But as I was saying, so companies and corporations can easily, like, take the $80 to the chin to a particular extent, right? Corporations, companies have to produce certain things in the US or whatever, like more advanced products, let's say, that only the US has the facilities for the sake of what we're going with here. They're going to have to be paying a lot more fucking money on those particular goods or items. Now, obviously, if it's getting over the threshold, then there's not going to be the flat tax, but, you know, this is just a random fucking example. Eventually, it's going to get to the point where they're only going to take the losses on the chin for so long that eventually they're going to furlough those losses onto the fucking consumer. and they're just going to have to pay more in for whatever goods that they're trying to purchase in particular. Whether it be like, I don't know, let's say a book, maybe some food. Well, some food would be shipped across from like China or whatever. Like anything that comes in from like Amazon, anything that's like manufactured, like furniture, for example. A lot of furniture tends to come from China. Or like cheaper electronic goods, like say TVs and stuff like that. There's going to have to be a flat fee on that every single time, which is ridiculous. Last year, almost 1.4 billion packages worth a total of more than $64 billion entered America without being charged duties under a rule called the de minimis exception, according to U.S. Customs. Experts say President Trump's policy change will hit small businesses hardest, and shoppers should brace for higher prices and fewer options, at least until the dust settles. Makes sense that it's small businesses that are going to be the main people that are affected by this, because generally speaking, they're not going to be the ones that are going to be importing as much stuff in bulk, right? They don't have to pay they're not going to be paying as much because they don't have the warehouses, for example, to store all of that bulk material, to stockpile all that stuff to make particular products and shit like that. They don't have the, say, it's exact same sort of like suppliers as well, right? Like it's gonna be a little different. Yeah, like you ordering all those fucking spices from like India and shit, Boy Meets Mini. Well, the minimis exception, you would have had to pay more for that. Believe it or not, not a lot of that stuff comes through Canada. It's the flat amount. So it's the 35% rate is on us in Canada specifically, right? So if let's say they try to go around it through bringing it into Canada and then shipping it through Canada, well, there's going to be the flat 35% tariff rate to basically compensate for that. So, that making the economy worse because nice meme. I've reached the point of acceptance, but when I first heard the news about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, I felt like it might be the end of my business, said Catherine Theobald's, founder and creative director of Buenos Aires based shoe brand Xiaozu. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. It might still be, that remains to be seen. What's the de minimis rule? De minimis is a Latin term that broadly translates to about the smallest things. Often used in legal context to describe matters too trivial to merit concern. The de minimis exception was introduced in 1938 to avoid the expense of collecting only small amounts of import duties in the U.S. Oh, that's a really good point. The amount of, listen, for all the complete utter nonsense that the Trump administration and conservatives talk about small government and red tape and bureaucratic sort of bureaucracy, I suppose, getting in the way of being able to have more effective, I suppose, market fluidity or whatever. Do you know just how much bureaucracy that is now going to have to be done, and how much number writing and note writing and everything that has to be done, and spreadsheets that have to be made in order to keep track of all this stuff, specifically by, well, U.S. Customs? It's gonna be fucking insane, because people order just small stuff from, say, differing places around the world through Amazon, Shein was the other company, and Temu, all the fucking time. It's going to be insane the amount of stuff that has to be just, I don't know, written down and be like, okay, there was a duty on this particular item, okay, there was one on this item, custom on this item, blah, 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 The rules threshold rose over the years, allowing e-commerce firms and global retailers that ship small packages to the U.S. to thrive. The exemption was often associated with companies like Chinese e-commerce giants Shein and Temu, which delivered American cheap goods that could be quickly shipped from the manufacturing source, with no warehouse stock or associated overhead costs. Right, basically making it such that they don't have to pay as much money in, say, differing import taxes or fees or shipping costs, typically, to, well, not have to basically have a bunch of stuff in stock because they can just ship it directly, right? This is going to wreck China's economy too. Oh, for sure. That's probably the biggest reason why he's trying to do this in particular, is he wants to go after China's economy. So there's a little bit of geopolitical positioning here. The problem is that everyone's going to suffer the consequences because of this, right? Broadly speaking, everyone's not going to be really, really happy about this, especially Americans who very often rely on a lot of fucking cheap goods. Like, it's going to make prices of average everyday goods go up significantly. Executives of Tapestry, the parent company of U.S. fashion brand Coach, which is known to sell leather bags that sell for roughly $200 to $1,000, told analysts this month that it expects to take a $160 million hit to its profits due to changing tariff policies, with about a third of that attributed to the elimination of the de minimis rule. Damn, right? Because these guys probably don't import a ton of stuff in bulk. I'm going to assume that more than likely, to try to get around the de minimis rule, it's going to be more importing in bulk, is my assumption, which means there's going to be a lot more warehouses, a lot more overhead costs and stuff like that, which overall still raise the prices of the particular items that are going to be particularly affected by these de minimis rules. Well, specifically with the de minimis rule exception. That's all I can really think of for as to how I suppose companies are going to get around this. I'm not sure if they're really going to do that, but that remains to ultimately be seen. Because like I've said before, they've already sort of been taking the tariffs on the chin and suffering a loss of profits as a result of Trump's utterly belligerent tariff and economic policies. Because again, he doesn't know how the economies or how tariffs work because he's an idiot. So, it's just a complete fucking shit show. That's really dangerous, though. The U.S. and China already have military presence in the South China Sea. Yep. It's gonna raise tensions, that's for sure. China's rapidly expanded in years in a comeback campaign fueled by Gen Z shoppers, and Tapestry remains confident the momentum will offset some of the impact of tariffs. Still, the elimination of the de minimis represents the logistical challenge. Shipments under the exemption made up more than 90% of all cargo entering the country. Damn. 90% of all cargo. That is insane. I don't know. It's effectively a freezing, maybe not like a freezing, but a significant slowdown on the U.S.'s consumptive market. Because that's the main value of the U.S. You know that Americans are gonna buy they cheap goods and they're gonna fucking consume. That's why it's very valuable to have, presence within the American market. You know that there's going to be willing and, paying consumers because your average American, in comparison, has the disposable income to be able to buy a lot of these cheap goods. Not saying that, the current economic situation within America is good or whatever. It's if we look at the statistics, the purchasing power of your average American is significantly higher in comparison to, say, I don't know, your average Vietnamese person or maybe not Japanese person, or Bangladeshi or Indian person. This is mostly the point that I'm saying here. Oh yeah, exactly, Boy Meets Mini. Ports are definitely going to grind to a halt as a result for this. President and his predecessor, Joe Biden, criticized the policy as harmful to U.S. businesses and said it has been abused to smuggle illegal goods, including drugs and fentanyl. Really, Joe Biden was also saying that this was being used to smuggle in drugs. I mean, that's entirely possible, right? You just ship in a couple bricks that are not higher than $800 a pop, basically, right? Something like that. But, a blanket ban like this is going to cause, wider fucking sort of consequences. I don't know. I've said before, if we're talking about the problems of fucking illegal drugs, the best way to not have that be a concern anymore is, again, through drug decriminalization, right? Same thing as what Portugal did, but is now, as not as effective because it's been getting attacked and defunded. So, whatever. So much for fucking actual good policy. In a full call with reporters on Thursday, Trump's trade advisor, Peter Navarro, that's how you know it's a fucking really stupid policy, because Peter Navarro is the main guy that's advising this. Said the move will save thousands of American lives by restricting the flow of narcotics through the mail, as well as add $10 billion a year to the U.S. coffers. I'm sure. Trump fast-tracked the rules appeal with an executive order this year, well ahead of a planned 2027 expiry date. With the necessary documentation, shippers will have to pay duties based on country of the origin tariffs rate. Otherwise, they can choose to pay a fixed fee between $800 and $200 per package, according to the White House. Oh, this is what this is what I was fucking looking for, right? It's right here. This is what I was looking for. So basically, depending on the tariff rate that a country has, there will be a flat fucking fee also associated with that fucking country. So here, countries with an effective IEEPA tariff rate. So this is the act that he's sort of using to justify these blanket tariffs because he thinks that there's a national emergency, which is fucking stupid. $80 per fucking item. So any country that has this tariff rate of a less than 16% is going to be forced to have to pay an extra fucking $80 on those items. And then, the threshold is then 16 to 25%, $160, and countries with an effective tariff rate of above 25 is $200 per fucking item. Damn, who's ready to pay a $200 extra fucking charge from any product that's coming from us? Because we have a 35% tariff rate. Hope you're not buying anything from fucking Canada. Hope you're not buying your ketchup chips, maple syrup, diamonds, petroleum products. That's a lot of fucking money. A lot of money. The second option, which is aimed to give postal services more time to adjust to the change. Lumber, potash, fertilizers. That also comes from us. The extra $200 will only be available for 6 months. Mainland China and Hong Kong were the first to be cut from the de minimis rule in May, prompting e-commerce giant Temu to halt direct sales to the U.S. Letters and personal gifts worth less than $100 will still be duty free. Okay, so just don't buy stuff more than $100, forehead, because people are definitely going to know about that stuff. It's so fucking stupid. Smaller variety, longer waits. U.S. consumers may see less variety of goods in shops and on e-commerce platforms as businesses get to grips with customs documentation, trade experts have told the BBC. Smaller firms need time to adjust, as they have mostly been spared from such paperwork until now. And Tam Nguyen from Logistics Administration from GOL Solution, the company handles exports from Southeast Asia to the U.S. You need to indicate the source of all materials in a product, which can come from many countries with different tax rates. This would absolutely make shipments slower. Right, because again, all of those particular products are going to have different tariff rates depending on where they're coming from, right? So there's going to be a complete administrative, bureaucratic nightmare to have to keep track of all of that, because you have to, write that all into the fucking accounting books. It's, like I said before, there's a reason why these just blanket flat tariff rates are just really fucking stupid. And the idea that this is supposed to, in the minds of conservatives, help with free market economies and commerce by cutting bureaucratic red tape when they do things that add a ridiculous amount of fucking bureaucracy in terms of having to keep track of all this stuff, in terms of having to do the amount of paperwork to keep track of all this shit, is fucking completely and utterly ludicrous. That could have a particular impact on niche markets, plus you could deter sellers from offering a broader range of products for export. Christopher Lundell is a 53-year-old psychologist based in Portland, Oregon, who also DJs and mixes music as a hobby. He is now an avid vinyl record collector who recently became aware of the de minimis exception suspension when he tried to unsuccessfully buy a $5 record from a seller in the UK. That's fucking crazy. Yeah. That's so true. So true, Sock. Now, yeah. The free market is definitely harmed by these fucking tariffs. Well, it's because it's like completely fucking marketized and globalized. It used to be a little different back then, but with globalization and everything, it just, it should really sell how fucking completely idiotic and stupid these fucking tariffs are. He canceled my order and said, "I'm sorry, but the UK is not shipping to the United States anymore," because it's just like, what's the point? People are more likely not going to buy stuff like a $5 rare record. $5, and there's gonna be like a complete there's gonna be how much potential money on this, right? The tariff rate on the UK, I'm not sure what it is. I think it might be below 16%. there's gonna be an extra $80 fucking fee slapped on top of that shit. No one's gonna buy it, like, gonna fucking want to pay for that shit. It's complete nonsense. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, probably shouldn't listen to the guy who, like, bankrupted 6 businesses to run an economy. Yeah, exactly. Sock now. Mr. Lundell says he tries his best to find US-based record sellers before searching online for overseas sellers based in countries like the UK, Japan, and China. He adds that he understands the need to protect US businesses, but says that he believes a blanket suspension of the de minimis exception is political theater. Well, the thing is like, he wants to try to build the US as a manufacturing export economy without actually doing the necessary policies to actually facilitate that construction, which is why it is extremely stupid what he is doing. Some of the orders may be frozen for the next few weeks. Ms. Nguyen said clients, including some in the healthcare sector, have halted orders. Major postal services in the UK, Europe, and the Asia-Pacific region paused deliveries to the US this week. The operators blamed uncertainty about how tariffs would work and a lack of time to prepare. Prices to rise. Without the exemption, businesses will have to factor in tariffs in the US as imposed on the country of origin, which came into effect for most nations in August. Yep, that was about 2 weeks ago? Oh, no. Would have been about the beginning of August, right? I think it was August 8th. Would have been about 3 weeks ago then at this point. About 3 weeks ago. Those levies can be as low as 10% for countries like the UK and Australia, with an extra fucking $80 charge on top of that because they don't have the 60% tariff threshold, which is fucking insane. While goods from Brazil and India face the highest tariffs at 50%, which is, man, signs of fucking recession. Dude, I'm so ready for the Trump depression. It's gonna be so great. Like, the job market is as shit as it is already, and now with Trump doing his, like, complete idiotic, like, belligerent nonsense with tariffs, it's only gonna get worse. Very cool. Following the change, specific duties will be imposed of $80 per item for countries with tariffs of 16% or less, $160 for shipments from countries between 16 and 25%, or $200 for items from countries with higher tariffs. Man, it's a really good thing you bought all that stuff from India when you did, Boy Meets Mini, because would have had to pay an extra $200 for that shit. Fucking crazy. Like a casino cannot use the US dollar. It has to use its own currency. It's just like Bitcoin, but an actual token they use in the casino. Oh yes, because there's like certain gambling laws within the United States, right? That's why there's like all these like fucking crypto casinos. Yeah, I get you. Very, very cool. Well, fixalization, the jobs number report, is also going to affect things because there is no way to buy that information unless you're a big corporation like Nvidia. I mean, the problem is that Trump doesn't fucking understand any of that stuff. Like, he's like a child who basically sees like, well, the number went down. That means it's bad, right? But fire the people who basically are telling me these bad numbers because I can't ever have bad numbers because he's a fucking idiot. Because he's a fucking idiot. A senior administration official downplayed consumer concerns, saying that the move will benefit Americans by making them safer and prosperous. By having to make them pay up to $200 more for items that come from certain countries. Because, again, I'm going to tell you right now, what's the likelihood that fucking the United States of America produces spices from, like, India, for example, right? Yeah, are you ready to pay more taxes, Boy Meets Mini? Let's fucking go, dude. Then you usually need to know that number for small businesses such as food trucks. Small businesses can't afford to buy that information. Yeah, exactly. That's why a lot of the stuff from, say, like the BLS and different like labor statistics are really, really fucking important. And that's why you should not have a stooge in power who wants to just basically placate Trump's, I don't know, like sensibilities. I guess we can just go with sensibilities. Like, there's a reason why you can't fucking just have like random bullshit in that in particular, because you need to have fucking accurate numbers and it can't be fucking politicized for those exact fucking reasons. Well, that's why, like, I mean, simply put, this shit is as incredibly fucking stupid as it is. It's just so fucking dumb. You either have to give the correct number or you don't have an economy, and that's the issue here. That he wants to fluff the numbers and it's not going to work. Exactly, right? Like, you can't fluff the numbers for something as tangible as, well, the U.S. economy. Like, it just doesn't work. He wants fluff. He wants to be told what he wants to hear. But when the reality sort of hits, I suppose, for lack of a better term, and the economy starts to shit the bed as a result of, well, the fluff being false, well, as expected, well, crazy, it's going to cause a lot of fucking problems. That's why it's so fucking stupid. Some American businesses welcome the news, arguing the elimination would level the playing field, I'm sure. Gap Inc. welcomes the administration's decision to suspend duty-free de minimis treatment worldwide. I wonder why Gap is talking about this. Who wants to make a bet that they're owned by some giant fucking multinational conglomerate, so they don't really have to give a shit about this because they're already under that particular umbrella. So stupid. The de minimis loophole has long provided an opportunity for some importers and retailers to avoid paying their fair share of U.S. duties, the company said in a statement. Again, I would like to make a bet that Gap just doesn't have to face any of the consequences for the de minimis exception being eliminated. Maybe because they just make shit products in comparison to small businesses. I don't know. But yeah, as expected, hey, dipshit right-wingers. Like, this is what you guys wanted, right? This is what you wanted. A collapse of the fucking economy. All because of a dude who, well, bankrupted fucking 6 businesses and barely understands how to run the economy. Because again, like I said before, this is the exact same guy who bankrupted fucking 6 businesses. So, who's ready for the collapse of the fucking U.S. economy? I sure am. Like, if you fucking think that 2008 was, like, the end of the fucking world, like, this shit like this, just complete, utter belligerent nonsense being done by executive order, is going to cause an even worse and further fucking collapse. So, I'm ready for Depression 2 Electric Boogaloo. So it's going to be great to see that this is exactly what's going to fucking happen. So, make sure to stock up on all your fucking necessary goods so you don't have to pay an $80 fucking surcharge or $200 fucking surcharge on those particular goods because of this exemption being, well, overturned. Don't think there's really much else to say besides that.